Hello, and welcome to the Content Bite, a podcast for freelancers who use their words to make money. I'm Rachel Smith, a freelance journalist, copywriter, and content producer. I'm also the founder of Rachel's List, a jobs board and community for Australian writers and other creatives.
And I'm Lynne Testoni. I'm a journalist and content writer as well. Rachel and I are your weekly co-hosts, and every week we bring you all kinds of tips, tricks, and some fabulous guests to help you make the most of your freelance business.
You know, feast or famine cycle hits harder without visibility over your finances. And that's why we love Rounded. It's an accounting system that reveals income sources, profitable clients and projects, and it helps you even anticipate quiet periods, doesn't it?
It does. It's great. And I know that because I've been doing this for quite a few years, like 10 years now, I have some real peaks and troughs over the years. And I think having that visibility into my finances really helps me, A, not get stressed, and B, manage that cash flow. I think it's really good.
Yeah, you can claim all the right costs and expenses with Rounders Expense Tracker, and some users have saved thousands through their tax return. So it's really a total game changer for your money management.
True. Particularly, it's been a tough couple of years with this whole cost of living crisis. And I really like the fact you can track the invoices and payment reminders so you don't have to worry about those things. Like Rounded looks after it all for you.
It definitely does. And it frees up hours for you to either find more clients and earn more or maintain a better work-life balance.
We're all about that.
We are. And if you're a Rachel's List member, you get 20% off the annual Rounded subscription. So check out the show notes for more about that.
Fantastic. Hey, Rach. Well, so this week we're looking at something that comes up a lot in the Rachel's List Gold group, and it's all about professional editing.
I know, it's interesting, especially when it comes to qualifications, because I think you really do need them. And a lot of people ask about courses and accreditation. And that's why we have a guest on who is accredited and can hopefully tell us all about what it means and how to find work and all those things.
Yeah, it's Lee Elwood, and she definitely knows her stuff. In fact, we picked her because we wanted to cover this topic, and Lee always gives such great advice in the Gold group, and I always read her comments, and I know she can enlighten us on all the ins and outs of this bit. So do you want to tell us a little about Lee, and we'll get her into the hot seat?
Yep, sure. Lee Elwood is an experienced IPED accredited editor, content writer and copywriter based in Naarm, Melbourne. She holds professional level membership of both IPED, the Institute of Professional Editors, and the UK's Chartered Institute of Editing and Proofreading. And she's a graduate of Macquarie University's, that's my uni, Lee, as well, the Graduate Certificate of Editing and Electronic Publishing. Through Ellwood's, her editing and writing agency, Lee has edited and or written program evaluation reports, newsletters, annual reports, awards submissions, web and brochure copy, books, academic research, and journal articles for a client list that includes Blacktown City Council, New South Wales Bar Association, QUT, Edith Cowan University, Leading Hand Design, and social impact consultancies. Wow. Welcome, Lee.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Love a long and comprehensive bio.
Yeah, I could have edited it down a bit.
I know.
No, it's great. It's actually because you see so many people, like we were just talking about the Wednesday writing sprint that we do at Rachel's List and also in the group, but you don't really know the ins and outs of someone's career unless we get them on the podcast. So it's really interesting
to
see what you do.
Good.
Yeah. Well, you've been a member of Rachel's List for years. For those of us who might not know you, tell us a bit about your business and how it's evolved over the years.
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. Originally, it started as a side hustle around day jobs back in the 2000s, I think. By about 2015, I was kind of pigeonholed into some admin roles, and I started working seriously to get into editing and get back into editing. I'd worked in publishing, National Library and National Museum in the previous decade. So part of that, I enrolled in Macquarie's grad certificate, which was great. And I also got myself involved with Editors Queensland, which is the Queensland branch of IPED. And that meant that when a redundancy from my day job came along, that was the time where I thought, look, I'm going to jump off this cliff and go freelancing. And because I already had those networks established, word got around, and that's where the first work came in from. So I'm a huge fan of networks and being an active part of networks, because I think they're really important in the communication trades. When I first started, I said yes to books, to sort of anything that came along. So my first jobs were self-published books. And yeah, gradually other things came along. Referrals was a really big part of it through the networks. But over time, I've narrowed my focus to what I think I do best and what works best for me and my business. So now I focus on helping purpose-led organisations write effectively for impact. And that might be from reports and funding or awards submissions right through to content and copy. And now it's grown past being just me. I have a couple of regular subcontractor editors. I've just taken on a VA for a couple of hours a week to start. And I've also got a network of people that I commission to write articles for one of my clients. So yeah, we're really focused on scaling up at the moment.
That's so
Amazing.
exciting. Oh,
Yeah.
that's great. I did not know that it had grown so much.
Me
That's
either.
fantastic. Well done. So one of the things I noticed in your bio, and this is something that we've talked about in the Gold Group, that you have this professional accreditation through IPED. What is that and what does it involve?
Accreditation is, it's awarded by IPED. It's a program or a certification, I guess, that IPED has developed along the way. It's validation by your peers that as an editor, you do know your stuff. So it's a quality measure. And it says to clients that you meet, at least a minimum standard of work. And I think it's important because I often hear people say, oh, I was good at English at school. I think I'll be an editor. And it's, it's so easy to hang up your shingle and say, I'm an editor. But there's so much more to it, to the craft of editing than that. One of the first things I learned when I went into my Macquarie course, thinking I knew quite a bit about editing, was how much I didn't know. And that was one of the most valuable things to learn at the beginning of that course. So to get your accreditation, you actually sit a 3-hour exam. It's a rigorous and it's a very tight exam. If anyone was thinking of sitting the exam, I would really encourage them to book into all the IPED workshops that are held in the run-up to the exam to equip you for being able to manage the tight time of it. I think you do have to be an IPED member to sit the exam and to get your accreditation. And joining IPED is worth it anyway if you're wanting to step across into editing. The other thing with accreditation is that it's very self-validating. So the week that I got my notification that I'd passed the exam was the same week I had walked out from my work with my previous employer at work.
You thought, yay, I've done the right thing.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're just launching or you're just ramping up a freelance business, it was incredibly self-validating to get that vote of confidence from your peers.
Yeah.
Amazing. So do you know, is there a certain level that you have to get to in the exam to pass? Or
It's like an 80% pass rate.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
There are 3 sections to the exam, and I'm not sure there is a minimum pass rate that's lower than the 80% for each of the sections, but overall I think it's 80% that you have to get. So it is quite a high benchmark. And the exam is so tightly engineered that I honestly feel that without doing the preparation workshops, you simply won't be able to tackle it in a time efficient way. So that's why I think those are so important.
Interesting. And how much does membership to IPED cost?
Oh, I've just paid mine. I really should know. It's not, there are different levels. I'm a professional member, which means if you're accredited, you attain professional level anyway. But if you have enough experience, you could probably be a professional member. And it's not a lot. It's something like $260 a year. But if you're new to the profession, you can join as an associate member, and that's a lot less. It might be 120. Don't quote me on these figures, but it is there on the IPED website. And student members, students who are doing these postgraduate courses or undergraduate courses actually in writing and editing, there's an even cheaper student rate. So coming in as an associate member is a really helpful thing. You still get access to the networks and the training and the jargon and the technical chit chat and so forth. And then once, as you start getting more experience or you pass the accreditation exam, you can apply to be promoted up to professional level.
Have you found that being a member has, brought you referrals through their networks, or do they post work or anything like that?
They do. IPED will email out to members if jobs come to them. It's not a very prominent function of IPED, like in the way that you have a jobs board is a big part of Rachel's list. But various departments or organisations will actually approach IPED and say, we're looking for an editor, could you, and they'll email that out. There's also an editor's directory where people can opt to list themselves, and it's searchable by genre and those sorts of things. Location, you can search. You don't have to be an accredited editor to list in that, but somebody searching can narrow it down to accredited. It's worth saying there are a lot of very experienced editors who don't have accreditation simply because their career and their experience predates the existence of the accreditation program. So there are a lot of really good editors, very experienced editors out there who might not have the accreditation thing.
And have you found that that's really important for securing editing work? Like, is it something that your clients look for, or is it something that's more important for, say, government work?
I think it's growing.
Yeah.
I think as more clients and potential clients become aware that there is an accreditation program, it's an easy way for them to look for an editor or to be confident that they're getting a quality editor. To me, it seems to be becoming better known in government work. I believe some or all, I'm not sure, universities for student thesis editing will only approve editing by accredited editors. I'm not sure if that's all universities. It's definitely growing. I don't know that it's been a deciding factor for any of my clients working with me, but I feel it having it there. It's on my website. It's in all my marketing. It is reassurance to clients that they are getting a quality editing job.
Oh, wow. So interesting. But it sounds like you also do copywriting. And how does that work?
Yeah, I do content and copy. The approach I'm taking now with the clients that I love to work with now is to provide them with whatever high quality words they need to achieve their purpose. If they need writing done, I can do writing. If they need editing, if they've used AI to draft something, I can humanize that for them. If they've sketched out an outline of a white paper or an article, or they've written the whole thing themselves, we can edit it. So it kind of grew out of one particular regular client, my main client, where we started with editing in all the different manifestations of editing, just copy editing, and then gradually growing into deeper. But they started asking me to do writing as they got busier and they got to know me better, and they started asking me to write stuff. And so that opportunity got me going from there, and I really enjoyed it. So I've been skilling up and expanding my networks on that side as well.
What kind of upskilling have you done in the copywriting landscape?
I joined Kate Toon's group for a little while, her copywriting school, before she sort of shifted that across to digital marketing. I joined Rachel's list, and I've been, in some of the webinars and stuff there. I'm enrolled in Bernadette Schwartz copy school at the moment. And some of it too is just a request will come along. Can you do this? And I know a bit about it, but I'll go off and find out more for that particular kind of writing or that particular field.
Oh, that's interesting.
What's the split like between editing and copywriting in your business? Like, do you do like a 50-50, and what do you prefer working on?
I'd say it's probably 60-40. It's probably more editing. Some of that is because my subcontractors are editors, And that's still the background that I've come from, but the writing is growing and I'm focusing my marketing a bit more on that as well. I actually really like both. I often think if I had to do just one, if I only wrote copy or content, my brain would get a bit tired. And if I only edited, it's a little like I actually enjoy doing deeper, more interventional editing. And then some days I enjoy doing the copy editing, the consistency and grammar checks and fact checks. And if I had to do any one of them all the time, I think my brain would get either bored or tired. So I actually I love doing all of them.
Yeah. Mm.
Do you find there's a good demand for qualified editors these days? And does it pay better?
My experience is that there is as much demand for my editing as there ever has been. Some of that is perhaps to do with the clients that I'm now working with, government departments, big business. The fluctuation in demand is probably more to do with your target market. I think smaller businesses have probably tightened up financially. There still seems to be strong demand for work from self-published authors. Book editing does not pay well. It tends to be something that you do for love, not for money. Editing for government and bigger businesses tends to be better paid. I think there's always going to be a demand. I think there's always going to be people who will value good writing and what it can do for their business or their organization. And those people aren't going to go away.
I agree with you. I know that there are a few people at Rachel's List who, considered, like we talked about earlier, moving into editing or offering it as a service. So I'm guessing your advice to them would be to, get into IPED and take that accreditation route. But are there any skills that are really non-negotiable for a freelance editor these days?
Yes, I would suggest they get into IPED. I would, before you tackle the accreditation exam, I would get a lot of experience. The exam is really designed for people who've got some experience. But getting involved in the networks has just been invaluable. Same as with content and copywriters, you pass things around each other and so forth. Until you sort of get into that world, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Like I'd love people to know, for instance, that IPED publishes the Australian Standards for Editing Practice. The 3rd edition was released late last year. So if you're thinking of marketing your services as an editor, I would recommend downloading a copy of the standards and looking to see what you can do and what you might need to boost. If you're doing academic editing, IPED also has guidelines for editing theses, and they've been worked out with the university. So there are areas that you shouldn't go into there. So those kind of nuances, similar with journalism, I could write a feature article, but that doesn't make me a journalist.
Yeah.
So there are nuances in the different areas of communication. Most editors now have at least a graduate certificate in the field, even a master's in publishing or editing. So I've known of people who've gone to TAFE and done the a Cert 4 in editing. And that's a great start, but you need to know that you're up against people who've done this at tertiary level. So your skill set's not going to be as well developed as those kinds of things. But yeah, join IPED as an associate member, and then there's always workshops and webinars on so many topics, and they're not expensive to jump into. There are hour-long webinars that cost, as a non-member, I think they're $25. As a member, it's $15. Skills, knowing Word, the really hidden mysteries of Word is a huge thing.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, just the editing world tends to use Word more than Google Docs. I know some clients do use Google Docs, but we still tend to be in Word. But knowing how to do multi-level lists, using macros, all those more technical kind of things are really important. Language change is a big thing to stay across. Because I think more than ever, the rules of language are more like guidelines than actual rules. And you need a fine-tuned sense of judgment to decide when to adhere to a rule or stick, or not stick to that rule, whatever's best for the circumstance. So there's a big degree of judgment involved. And saying grammar is never going to be useless, even though it changes, but understanding why you put the comma where you put the comma, or why the syntax of a sentence is the way that it is, can be really helpful. And good general knowledge is huge. Being able to spot, if you know that Bateman's Bay is south of Sydney and not north of Sydney, you can save the writer from stopping at Bateman's Bay on his way from Sydney to Brisbane. You know, things like that. It's extraordinary.
Yeah.
The facts that you'll stop and question because you think that's not right.
So interesting.
Yeah. Lee, I'm interested to know, like, what different types of editing are there, and how do you know what type is required on a different job?
That's a really good question. I find that people kind of have preconceived ideas of what editing is, and that can sometimes muddy the brief if you don't have a conversation to actually clarify that. So there's a full scale of editing, like particularly for a book. Really early in the piece, you might you might work with a developmental editor who will actually help you develop your idea for the book. So that's quite a partnership. That's quite an intensive thing. And it might not necessarily apply to an annual report. The next kind of editing that might happen is structural editing, which is where we'll work with the written document to improve the flow, the structure of the whole thing, and move paragraphs around, suggest breaking up chapters or sections, that sort of thing. Line editing and copy editing, we tend to call copy editing in Australia, but in the UK, they really differentiate the two. But you're talking here about at sentence level, word level, syntax, correct punctuation, grammar, that sort of thing. Proofreading is a funny one because really, technically, proofreading happens to material that's already been edited, and it will be a last check of a designed document or web page or whatever before it goes to print or before they hit publish on the web page. So that's not the time to be picking up syntactical errors. Proofreading is meant to be that last check, and also to make sure that any copy edits and previous edits have been taken in. But people often now talk about proofreading. Can you just proofread this document for me? Really, what you'll give them is a copy edit. I find that the terminology can just muddy that conversation. So if somebody comes to me and says, could you edit my report? I'll have a conversation with them and say, now, to find out exactly what they're imagining I'm going to do. They may only be wanting me to check for typos and put commas and capitals in the right place. They may be assuming that I will rearrange any sentences that aren't clear. They may actually be hoping that I'll just rearrange the whole document if it's not flowing very well, but you don't know necessarily just from the word edit. So having a conversation and providing a list of dot points. Oh, you want a copy edit? This is what you'll get for a copy edit. Is this what you want? If you're doing an editorial brief or you're doing a contract with that client, it's important to understand because it varies so much in people's minds. And so you might hand back a really intensive edit and they'll have complete, a heart attack because they didn't imagine you going that far.
Yeah, you definitely need to have that conversation.
Yeah, it's a bit like the brief with copywriting. Like, what is it that the client's actually imagining you're going to do? Let's get on the same page and get it all clear, and then nobody wastes time, and there's no heart-stopping shocks when you deliver.
Would you also need to see the document to because what if they don't really know what they want? And you could say, well, can you show me a portion of the document or a sample or whatever, and then I can help us work out what it actually needs or something like that.
Yes, that's the absolute ideal. I mean, when you've got a regular client, when they've got repeat clients, you tend to get to know what they're talking about. But for a new client, I definitely want to see it because it can vary so much what they want and what they can get for their budget and how much time have we got to do this in. So I often, if people come along and say, could you edit this report? And we'll talk about budget and maybe their budget is a little constrained, then I'll suggest a level of intervention that I could do that would polish up their document but still meet their budget.
Mhm. Mm.
And yeah,
Yeah.
book editors in particular, they'll always want to see a couple of chapters, at least see it if they don't actually do the sample edit for you.
Yeah.
Mm.
Which brings me to the sort of point about pricing these sort of projects. How do you approach pricing? How do editors normally price? Is it by the word, hour? How do you do it?
It varies. I know book editors seem to price per word. Government editors doing government work might price per hour because government departments often think in an hourly rate. I personally have in the past based prices on an hourly rate. I'm shifting more to the project-based model,
Yep.
which I think suits things like annual reports and more substantial reports and things like that, capability statements, those sorts of chunkier things. A couple of my regular clients, it's just it's an hourly rate because the budget kind of where the budget doesn't quite matter. That's just the pattern that we've fallen into. But I'm a big fan of project-based rates, and project pricing ought to reflect the value that the output is bringing.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, something like an annual report, there's certain regulatory things that you have to be in mind. So, the value is high because the risks are great if it's not done well.
Yeah, that's very true.
And it may not be the same with other things,
Yes, that's very true. And it will vary a little bit depending on how wide is the audience that are going to see this thing. I should say too, IPED does publish pay rates. There's a pay rates committee or working group or something, and they do publish recommended pay rates. So for anybody listening who's thinking of working as an editor or thinking of engaging an editor, do be guided by the pay rates. They're available on the IPED website, and that will give you a bit of a guideline of a bit of a range of what you should expect to pay for a professional editor.
Oh, that's fantastic. I looked at your website and I saw that you do a lot of reports, especially annual reports. Do you love those sort of detail things? Is that your thing?
In a way, yeah, in a way that it is. I like instructions that you can follow. I like summaries that accurately reflect what's happened. I like information on web pages that I can easily understand. And I think I've always been like that. And I've always been able to just glance at a page and go, oh, there's the typo, which can be very annoying to people.
For the other people. Oh, for the
people,
record, I love it when people point out my typos. I love those people, but I know I'm in a real minority because others hate it.
Well, it depends on how you go about it and whether it's the right time to mention that you spotted the typo or not. I will fess up that my kids had to stop me from rubbing out chalk grosses apostrophes on blackboards outside.
The temptation.
Yes.
It does drive me mad. But look, ultimately, I love writing that's clear and consistent and correct because it does the job. So if that means burrowing down into the details, then I'm there. But I do personally get frustrated if I'm reading an instruction manual or a set of directions to somewhere and it's just not working. It just doesn't, it's not clear. So yeah, I guess it's details, isn't it?
Yes.
Detailed work. Well, on that note, I mean, what sort of, work or process is involved in pulling together an annual report? Or are they all vastly different?
For the client, they're probably not vastly different, but in terms of the work that comes in, they can really vary. We have one that we do each year for a legal organisation, and it's written by one person, and it comes to us for basically a light copy edit, late in the piece. Other annual reports in big organisations are going to have lots of contributors from different departments. So they'll all come in written in a different voice. Even if people have been handed a template, their natural writing voice will be different to everybody else's. So that's a different kind of editing there where you need to make it all of one voice. It needs to be a consistent document. It reflects the whole organisation. And often plain English, particularly for a government department or a council or something, plain English is a big factor in that. You can go further. Some clients will actually outsource the whole thing, the writing and the project management of the whole thing. So project management skills is really, can be really important at that level. So it does vary a lot, and recognizing the challenges that your contact person might be facing can be very helpful as well, because sometimes your contact person's tearing their hair out trying to get all the submissions back so that you can edit them so the thing can go to design on time, but they don't have authority over the other departments, and the other departments have got their own priorities, and the annual report is not one of them. And yeah, so it varies a great deal depending on the client and their particular situation, I think.
Interesting.
So interesting. Do you think that all writers can benefit from learning about editing? Do you think it makes you a better writer?
I think there are some editing practices that, yeah, that will be helpful for any writer, like to understand grammar, to understand punctuation. I think some people are naturally better writers at the bigger picture level and may not ever grasp the details of an errant comma. And perhaps there are others who are really good with the punctuation and the grammar, but they don't have that bigger sense of narrative or flow that really makes any kind of document work better. So I don't think there will never be no call, there'll never be no call for editors. I don't think we'll ever do ourselves out of a job by teaching people some editing tricks.
I know, like I worked as a sub for many years, and I still think that that is one of the best things that I did in terms of becoming a stronger and really a tighter writer, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think journalists who've done sub editing would make the step across to professional editing as a specialization quite well. And it's a bit sad that you can see in a lot of the journalism now that they're doing away with the sub editors. You know, my favorite news source, who shall remain nameless, but used to be the go-to for quality writing, and it's the clangers that you see, because again, they've got to churn out the content really quickly, and there's no sub editors to catch them.
It makes you wonder if how many of those subs have thought about really upskilling into editing, into freelance editing. I don't know.
No,
Where
I
have
don't
they all
know.
gone?
Yeah, they must be doing something, but it's definitely an option, and you just need to expand from the technical expertise that you have as a sub editor and expand out to the bigger pictures. Because often when if I say to people, "Oh, I'm an editor," you know, at a dinner party, and they automatically go, "Oh, do you edit books?" And I go, "Well, no, sorry, not that. I mean, I have."
Yeah.
But it's interesting that people either think, "Oh, you're a book editor,"
Mm-hmm.
or you're going to be all over their capital letters and their full stops, and they don't want to show you any of their writing. But there's a lot more to it than that, and editing can be quite creative, which people don't realize.
Well, we talked a little bit about how a lot of your work comes from referrals and how you do similar projects or the same projects over and again every year. But what about other sort of lead generation tactics? Where do you find other clients?
I'm actually focusing more on marketing this year, and I'm taking a sort of a multi-pronged approach. I suppose I'm listed in the IPED directory. I'm ramping up my activity on LinkedIn. I've now started a company page for Ellwood's on LinkedIn, as well as my own personal page. And just to be visible, to me, the important thing is being visible. So if that means going to networking events, going to industry events, if you've got target industries, find some of those events and go to them and walk up and talk to people. But a website is a must-have, and I've recently done quite a bit of work on the website. So I do have some editorial colleagues for whom that kind of standing up, being visible isn't naturally comfortable. And I recognize that that's not easy for everybody. But ultimately, if you're not visible, how are people going to see you? I think it's important to do what you can to overcome that feeling of, I don't want to stand up and, dance on the table. Which you don't have to, it doesn't have to go that far, but I mean, it is business. It's business. So,
yeah.
Well, you've made me think that, there is a lot of editing out there. There's a lot of people who still want good editors, but we just talked about subbing, and I think that that is sometimes seen as a bit of a dying art. So what's your thoughts about that? I mean, we all agree that subs are so necessary, but it's sad to see them go.
yeah, I think sub editing is still necessary, but whether the media companies will pay for it is
Yeah.
the big question.
Yeah.
I think I said this before. There's always people who will recognize the value of good writing and will understand that an outside eye can help to deliver that for them. And I think that a key thing is now anybody can churn out content, which means what, 80%, 50%, 70% of it is rubbish. Now, good writing will float to the top of that. And I don't think the demand for good writing will go away when people are so busy. They will stop and read stuff that's clear, that hooks them. Good writing is meaningful. And I don't think that's going to go away. Maybe it will fluctuate where I think it's true that smaller businesses probably get by without outsourcing that kind of thing. But maybe when they come back into some good days, good financial days, they might stretch out a little bit more. I haven't noticed AI making a big impact on my editing work in the way that it did affect a lot of copywriters particularly in that first year. I think it's important to be able to ride the changes that come, especially tech changes. They're going to come, whether we want them or not. They're going to come. So it's important to sort of be able to think about how can I ride this one out.
So interesting, because I wanted to ask you about tech changes and AI, because you did say earlier that you sometimes are humanizing AI content. Do you think, I mean, some discussions we had at the summit last year was that the growth is actually in editing rather than content, that people are generating some AI copy, but they need a good editor to humanize it, to check it for factual accuracy, all that sort of stuff. Do you think that's made a difference?
I think it has changed the sort of the size, shape, color of editing. Yes, I think humanizing AI copy is a really good thing for an editor to add to their service basket. Because, like I said, it's not going to go away. And its main fault, in terms of a writing tool, its main fault is that it doesn't have that empathetic human touch. And that's what an editor can bring. One of the things, all the AI tools seem to come out of America. So anything they write are also very American. The headings will be maximum capitals. The way it uses, M dashes, and everybody says, that's a sign of ChatGPT. Well, no, it's a sign of an American piece of writing. So you don't really, when you're writing in Australia for an Australian audience, you don't actually want American stuff. You want to make it Australian. So yeah, I think technological change, I think for all of us in communication is a huge thing to ride.
But it can bring opportunities, that's what you're saying, isn't it?
It can bring opportunities. I mean, one of the big tools that many of us use is a thing called Perfected, which was invented by a UK company called Intelligent Editing. And most editors that I know you couldn't get out of bed without Perfected. It's a kind of consistency check, like I guess a big box of macros. But it's just invaluable you can put your client style sheet into it and run it across the document. It can pick up inconsistencies. So there are new tools like that come along that make a really important difference.
And also, have we heard some freelancers who talk about using AI as an editor? What are your thoughts on that? They're literally putting the document in and saying to ChatGPT, where can this be tightened? Where can this be improved? That sort of thing.
Any inconsistencies?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm I think people are going to do that. I
Hmm.
think again, you still haven't got that human touch.
Yeah,
And it's going through an American lens.
yeah,
It's not, I mean, it's not a bad idea to ask it where to tighten things up, I guess, but you still need to check it to make
yeah,
sure that it's done a good job.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's also almost double handling, isn't it?
So it's almost double handling. I use it for research before I write, for brainstorming headings or points that you might talk about and stuff like that. But I'll still check out all its suggestions.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how well it would go in the consistency thing because, again, these are American programs. They don't know the Australian conventions for copywriting. I mean, copy editing, I'm sorry.
Mm.
They don't know that we use single quote marks, not double quote marks, and a whole pile of other things. So I feel like you're still going to have to go over it. So, and one thing to be, I'm not up on this, but I'm very wary about putting client work into an AI for confidentiality reasons. And I think most editors feel the same.
Yeah.
So just, need to be a bit careful about that side of it. And it's a complex side of it to understand, to be honest.
Mm, mm. Absolutely. Well, talk to us about, what a typical week might look like for you.
In theory, first thing Monday, I will focus on my business admin and my weekly schedule. And sometimes that works and sometimes it
And
doesn't. But
sometimes come on a podcast.
sometimes come on a podcast. That's very true. But I do try to start my week with a focus on my business. What's coming up? What do I actually need to do? Schedule myself some tasks that are admin or whatever. Block out when I'm going to do a particular job, how much time I need to give it. Whether it's going to come back later in the week for a second round, all that sort of thing. Every week I will have some writing and editing work for my biggest client. That's a consistent thing. One of the things we deliver is the Compass website about elder abuse, and that's a fantastic project to be involved in. But there's always, across every month, there's always work for Compass and for other projects with that client. So then I'll look at what other projects are on, and I'll schedule around that to make sure that they get time as well, and they those deadlines. Some weeks I will co-work with one of my subcontractors on a job that we're both doing together. Sometimes the relationship might be that they do the work and then I review it. So we're building in like a QA step for most of the jobs, as long as time permits. At the moment, I'm ramping up my marketing, so I've got to allow time for that. So there's more marketing on the weekly schedule than there was before, like doing podcasts.
Yeah, you've ticked that box this week.
Yeah.
It's the first time for everything, isn't it?
Yes, good.
Amazing. Well, we love to ask our guests about their tech tips. We have touched a bit on technology, but you've already mentioned one of the tools that you'd be lost without. Is it
Perfected.
Perfected? Yeah. Are there any others that you really love?
Perfected is the main one for editing, and I really do like. Not everybody likes the Microsoft Office's online presence now, but I actually really do like that. And we're making a lot more use of Teams for the co-work jobs that we do with the team. And I've actually got quite a few clients who are bring the work to us through OneDrive or through Teams. So it is really handy knowing how to work in that environment and not just the desktop subscription, non-subscription model. Business-wise, Asana, I've shifted to Asana late last year and it's game-changing. I just love it. Maybe it works with my head, but I just love the way that it works. And I couldn't get by without Rounded or another bookkeeping package. My accountant does make nudges about changing to Xero, but Rounded has just been brilliant because I really don't know a lot about bookkeeping. And for a freelancer, for a sole trader, it's been great.
Well, we know our sponsors will love to hear that, Lee.
I'm not just saying it for all of it. It's actually easy to get enthusiastic about something that works well for you,
Yeah.
doesn't
Ain't
it?
that the
And
truth?
it does do that. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Fabulous.
So interesting, Lee. It's so good to find out a little bit more about your business and what you do. It's really made me think a lot about editing and
Me too.
the intricacies of it, which is
Yeah.
great.
yeah,
So
good.
tell us where the audience can find you.
Well, our website is ellwoods.com.au.
Mhm.
And yeah, there's lots of details about us all there and who my subcontractors are and their skills, because they've got professional backgrounds that really we complement each other, and that's part of the strength of being the little group that we are. And I'm on LinkedIn, and Ellwoods is on LinkedIn, so you can find either of us there. So they would be the best places.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Lee, again for being our guest this week. That brings us to the end of the show, but we will see you all next week, won't we?
Yeah, and we'll put all those connections to Lee in the show notes.
Yes.
That'd be great. Thanks,
Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Bye.
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 Thanks again to our wonderful sponsors, Rounded, easy accounting and invoicing software that helps freelancers run their business with confidence.
And don't forget, if you're a gold member of Rachel's List, you can check your welcome emails for an exclusive discount code on the annual subscription rate. You can also find it in the private Facebook Gold group, or just contact us at hello@rachelslist.com.au.